Hey guys, today's video is all about riding wood. We're at Woodhill in Auckland, and I've always enjoyed riding some of the wooden structures here. So today we're going to give you a few tips and tricks for how I get on riding them. Woodhill back in the day, early 2000s, used to ride out here on my fully rigid 26-inch. They had lots of real tall, skinny seesaws, North Shore structures. It was really cool to ride, but over the years they've disappeared. The forest had to relocate to a different part of the forest, and so they weren't rebuilt. And but over the last few years, a fair few have sort of popped up again. And so today we'll go for a little bit of a tour, and I'll give you a bit of advice on how I think we should approach them. All right, tip number one, and you'd pretty much be stupid not to follow this one. You should, if you're learning how to do skinny structures, you should ride on flat pedals. Okay, they're not flat pedals, but in my defense, I've done lots of stupid things before. It would take at least a minute to change these over, so we're not going to bother, we'll be fine. Another thing is that if you're riding wooden structures, you should definitely do them in the dry. We could pretty much pull this one off. It has rained all week. They'll be a little bit wet, but there's a fairly strong wind today, and I think they're drying out. If I talk long enough, by the time we get round to them, they'll be dry. Also, not that this is a deal breaker, but ideally you don't want to full-on mud tyre because effectively those knobs that dig into the mud are not going to dig into a flat wooden surface. But we've got some Argotels which are pretty much mud tyres, but they're a soft compound that'll work. And the other thing is, if you have to hop off a high structure, generally a nice light bike is good. So an e-bike's probably not ideal, but we'll make that work as well anyway. All right, let's do feature number one. All right, so we'll roll into this. It's got a little... Okay, it's kind of odd, this one, because it's not been rounded off at the top at all, so you have to kind of stay right in the middle. Too easy. Question is, can we go the other way? Okay, it's kind of odd, this one, because it's not been rounded off at the top at all. Kind of stay right in the middle. And we're up. And this is where the e-bike helps, in that you've got a little bit of power to get you up, makes it a little bit easier, and that one's that done. And we're up. This is where the e-bike helps, in that you've got a little bit of power to get you up, makes it a little bit easier, and that one's that done. All right, we need to talk a little bit about exit strategy. Imagine a 2-meter wide wooden platform, dry, grippy, flat. Would you ride that? I think almost every one of us would. You couldn't go wrong, right? But what happens if I said it was 100 meters off the ground, and if you went off the edge of it, you would almost certainly die? Would you still ride it? And so wooden features are made up of two things really: how easy it is to do, and the consequences for not doing it correctly. You can have a tiny little skinny feature that's almost impossible to ride, but you can hop off it. It's only 10 centimeters off the ground. You can have as many tries as you like without any consequences. Although they did have one out here back in the day, had a chain across it, and if you had to try and ride across a chain, of course if you messed up, you ripped your derailleur off. Which is, I don't know why I'm not here on my Zero, because it's got no derailleur at all. It's perfect for doing skinnies. So you've got three options really. You can step off. That's where you stop on the structure and put your foot on the structure. That can work. However, sometimes, like on this one, if there's not much room and you lose your balance, you can't put your foot out anymore, and you topple over and you make a right idiot of yourself. Jumping off is where you apply both brakes and you literally jump over the bike and land onto the ground. And you could probably do that on this log. It's not super high, but at my age I'd probably roll an ankle. So the other idea is to hop off, and that's literally where you ride the bike and you just do a little hop or a jump and just jump off the log. And I think on this one that's probably pretty easy to do. There's stuff on the left hand side, so I guess I'd want to hop to the right. So we'll give that a go, and I'll show you how we do that. And then this one is where just going to try and just hop off of it. All right, we just got to the top of the very first hill, and up there's a whole lot of these little wooden features, wooden sort of boardwalks. They're reasonably wide and they're very close to the ground, so a really good place to start. If you want to practice jumping off the edge or hopping off the edge, you can build up confidence doing that. So anyway, this is a really good place to start if you're a beginner. All right, just going to show you the three techniques of getting off your bike if it goes wrong. You've got number one, the step off. Number 2 is the jump off, which is a little bit more challenging. You want to lock both your brakes on and then over your jump. And number 3 is the hop off, or in this case, it's almost just a roll off really. Alright, we might as well do a full run. Although we'll avoid the puddles, I think. So the third technique is to go fast and launch yourself off. And then you got another, say, couple there. And so you can make little jumps out of them. And a slightly skinny one just here. Alright, well we're still in exactly the same spot, but this one I haven't ridden before. This is like a round log, so effectively it looks fairly wide, but actually the effective riding area is lucky if it's 2 tyre widths wide, so you're going to have to keep pretty straight on this one. Exit strategy, well, I think you could probably jump off this okay. You could probably again hop off of it. You certainly can't step off on this one. There's not enough room to put your foot down on it. But anyway, let's give this a go, shall we? Alright, we'll take that. Alright, we'll take that. Alright, well we've made it to a track called Bert and Ernie, and this is one that has got most of the skinnies that's been built recently. There's some up the top there, we'll ride through them before we get to here. They're a little bit easy, although not without consequence. They're pretty narrow and they're not completely close to the ground. But then you come to this one and it gets fairly high and fairly narrow. It's probably 3, maybe 4 tyre widths wide, so it's pretty narrow and it's getting sort of waist height for me. And in terms of exit strategy, well, you can't step off, it's too narrow to put a foot down, and you can probably jump off of it. This is about the limit of what I used to jump off. These days I prefer not to jump off. You can probably hop off of it, but yeah, you could go ugly. Or the other is I've got a 4th strategy, and that is just don't mess it up. And so that's the one I'm going to use on this one. Now, in terms of tips for riding, one of the tips that I like to think is that when you're riding, if you think you're about to lose your front wheel over the edge, you're better to use one of those exit strategies and jump off under your control than to let the front wheel drop off the edge and to face plant the wood. Trust me, I've done that multiple times. It hurts. So yeah, better to use an exit strategy than to crash off of the wood. Other strategies you may think about, are you better to go fast or slow? How quick should you do these things? Well, if you're really fast, you're only on a very short time and therefore less time to have an accident. Therefore, but saying that, if your front wheel slips off at that speed, it's going to hurt even more. So I always think you need to be in control and go slow enough so that if, again, you feel as though you're going to come off of it, you've got the chance to bail on your own accord. You can go too slow, of course. If you go really, really slow, then obviously that can affect your balance. A little bit of forward momentum makes it easier to balance, which is why it's easier to do skinnies downhill than to do them uphill. Finally, another tip, or this is my suggestion, do you sit or do you stand when you're doing skinnies? Now, for me it seems really obvious, but I have seen people sitting down doing skinnies who are really good at them, and they swear it's the way to go. To me, the seat is for having a rest, so when you're doing anything that involves control, being able to jump off, hop off in a hurry, seat slam standing up. Anyway, let's give you a run through this one. Alrighty, so up onto here. So we've got a little bit of gravity. And we did it. So we've got a little bit of gravity. And we did it. And we did it. Alright, so let me just run you through the skinny features at the start. And they're not insignificant actually. They're relatively narrow and they're not super close to the ground, so I think we've gone for our go fast strategy, and then as you say, that rolls us into the main feature here. Now, one thing I may not have talked about is corners. Now, there's not a lot of corners on these skinnies, but this one has a bit of a corner, and the thing with the back wheel is that it's a little bit lazy, and so the front wheel will follow the path, and the back wheel says, I'm just going to take a shortcut and catch up. So if I roll this bike along on the inside of this feature, rolling, oh, it looks fine. until back wheel does that. So you always want to, where possible, go as wide as possible with the front wheel so that the back wheel doesn't drop off. Most of these structures are designed fairly well, although some of them you will actually, the real tricky ones, you'll actually have to stop, lock the front brake on, and then hop the back across a little bit. But yeah, keep in mind, yeah, back wheel is lazy. All right, now for something a little bit different. I'm not going to show you all of the wooden features in Woodhill because there are a lot. I'm standing on Aviator, and even in this spot here, I'm surrounded by wood. Let me show you. This is actually on Howgood, but there's 3 wooden ramps there. If I circle round, there's a wooden jump down there with a wooden ramp, followed by another wooden jump, followed by half a dozen more wooden jumps. But what we're interested in today is this little wooden feature here. I thought we might show you. This is a step on, step off. As you can see, you've got to come round a corner, you've got to try and maintain some speed. So in terms of the width of the thing, well, it's plenty wide enough, you shouldn't come off of it. And yeah, it's just a matter of dropping off the end. Exit strategy is definitely number 4. That is, don't mess it up, because none of the other options, well, I guess you could put your foot down on the top here, but I don't think you could actually stop on the top. I wouldn't try that. How fast should you go? Well, you can go slower than you think, but in all honesty, I would go as fast as you can, because you lose speed in the corner and you really can't go too fast. So anyway, let's give that a go. Okay, so quite a different wooden feature, this one. As you say, hop over that one. Oh, it went a bit big. Roll around the berm, hop up, hop off, and over we go. Hop up, hop up, hop off. Alright, I thought we might step it up a little bit. I've come to a track called Barrel Run, and it's got quite a few wooden features. In fact, if you want to check out all these wooden tracks and features and jumps they have at Woodhill, I've got a playlist. Check out Aviator and Barrel Run, some very interesting one. This is a double black. Funnily enough, I made a POV of this track and made a short of it, and 500,000 people watched that. Pretty amazing, 500,000 people. But a lot of people commented from the POV footage, oh, that's just a flow trail, that's not a double black. Well, I know a couple of things. One, they've never been here, because once you've been here, you know this is a double black, and 2, they know nothing about grading trails. But for a start, the skinny, I don't know if you see, but it's up there, long, long way up there, I can't reach it. That's where we've got to go up to. Okay, so let me sort of show you how this feature works, and this has kind of got, you know, it's got everything. That's why I chose this one, actually, because it's got a wooden skinny. Now, there's a few things going on here. It's a corner. It's also at an angle. That thing, if you can see, there's quite an angle on there. It's uphill, so you've got to pedal up and generate a bit of speed, which is why the e-bike's probably good for something like this. You can see I'm well underneath this platform here. And then there's a gap here. It's not a huge gap. Saying that, you know, you're up in the air on a wooden feature, landing on a wooden feature. So if we're talking about exit strategies, we're going to go with number 4, and that is just don't mess it up. We then go back uphill again, so you've got to climb up a wooden skinny. It's not that skinny, but it's not, you know, some people wouldn't ride this on the ground. And then you have to jump off the end. Just turn that around for you. Jump off the end, clear the log, and land down here somewhere. So yeah, should we try that? All right, I think speed's definitely our friend on this one. See, straight down. Oh yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. Oh yeah, take it. All right, well, what have I learned? Well, the KTM Prowler, and with a set of knobbly Argentails, may be the best bike for doing wooden features out here at Woodhill. I've had a really fun day. I don't know if you learned anything. I'm not a coach, I'm not an expert mountain biker. I'm just a pretty average rider, but I do like wooden features. Some people get freaked out by them, but to me, I feel more confident jumping a wooden jump than a clay dirt jump. I guess I got used to it. If you've enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, so I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and thumbs up, like, leave me a comment. What do you think? Are you happy riding wooden features? Do they scare you? Was any of this helpful? Anyway, we'll see you on the next one. I must admit, after doing all these wooden structures, I got back to the car park and I forgot these were here. So yeah, you don't have to go very far at all if you want to have a little bit of a practice. And here's a good example of a corner. Got to go wide, go wide. Little drop. Take the right hand line, which looks like that really is skinny. Cool. Yeah, I completely forgot when I was going to make the video that all this was here.